Well, this is DaviD TaL. This is a Balagan Connection, and this is going to be our weekly update about what's going on in Israel, what's going on in the Middle East, the connection between Israel and the Middle East. And if you stay with me all the way to the end, we have another Hebrew concept, Hebrew word, Hebrew idea that's going to connect and tie into all of these. So let's talk about what's going on. 8 hostages were released 2 days ago. 8 hostages, of which 3 were Israelis and 5 were Thai workers from Thailand that got stuck in 7th of October event. They were released from the dungeons and the pits of Hamas and turned over to Israel. The 3 Israeli hostages were Gadi Moses. Gadi Moses, 80 years old, a farmer from a little town on the border with Gaza. It was Agam Berger, 21 years old, who was in the military, but she was sleeping in her bedroom and was actually taken hostage in her pajamas. And Bel Yehud, who was 29, that was actually taken hostage in her home together with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is still in Gaza after half of her family had been taken out in front of her. The Israeli authorities initially delayed the release of the 110 Palestinian prisoners that were supposed to be returned in return for these hostages. 110 Palestinian bad people. And the reason they delayed that is because what the Palestinians were doing is turning the whole process of handing the girls, handing the Israeli hostages over to the Red Cross and then to Israel into this victory. It was very hard to watch. And this is a part of what we're going through. Anyway, in the meantime, this is the third phase of the first stage, if you want to do this, of the agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. Meaning we're going to be releasing a couple of hostages every week in return for Palestinian terrorists and hostages that are going to be returned. I think the first week they released 3 hostages. The second week they released 4. This week they released 3 hostages and so on, together with the 5 hostages. Next week they should be releasing 3 more. The week after that, 3 more. The week after that, 3 more. And at the end of this whole process, which should come around somewhere around day 42, day 45 of this whole agreement, Israel will have withdrawn from most of the areas inside the Gaza Strip that we're holding right now, besides 2 corridors. One that runs through the middle and one that runs through the edge. One is called the Netzarim corridor. One is called the Philadelphia corridor. Start getting those names into your mind. And the last hostages that will be turned over out of the 33 are the ones that are not alive. And we kind of guess, and are shivering from the fact that it's probably the 2 young red-headed boys that were taken in on the 7th of October that we have had no way to understand what's going on with them. Yes, the end justifies the means, meaning getting these people out justifies the fact that in return for the 33 hostages that we're going to get, we are going to be handing over 736 killers, literally terrorists that have gone through the court system, 736 people that have Jewish blood, Israeli blood on their hands, that have been tried and convicted, not just held as prisoners of war, literally tried by the Israeli courts and convicted. On the other hand, we will be releasing another 1,500 prisoners of war from the battles inside Gaza. So Israel will be turning over 2,000 bad people in return for 33 hostages that 8 of them are dead. And we haven't even started talking about the rest of the hostages that are still held in Gaza. And in the meanwhile, the celebrations in Gaza are horrific. I mean, they're being paraded like sheep. The last girl that was actually released, you see a thong of hundreds of Hamas fighters in uniform with their weapons in the air. Nobody looks hungry. Nobody looks sick, as opposed to what we keep on talking about, the humanitarian crisis. And they're surrounded by thousands of regular day-to-day people living in Gaza that are jeering and smearing. It looks like a scene out of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I don't know if you remember the scene where Aslan was handed over to the bad people. And this jeering and this taking pictures of them. And you see this 21-year-old girl in the middle of all this, freaked out for her life. It is a big celebration for Hamas. It is a big celebration for the people in Gaza. And here's something that I want you to understand, because this is what's going on through Israeli minds lately, and that is this. Seeing now that not only the Hamas fighters are outside and taking part in this, only have the Hamas fighters come out of their holes, not only all of a sudden they have uniforms and they look clean and well fed, not only is the Red Cross, who is taking credit for making the transfer from inside Gaza to Israel, but has not visited those hostages once, not even once, which is an affront to all humanitarian idea, and it is against the Geneva Convention. Okay, now they're taking hostage, they're taking credit. The Red Cross cars are moving in and out. Not only is all of that happening, but the people of Gaza, just to see the spitting and the celebration of the regular people of Gaza. And all through this war, people have been telling us, no, the people of Gaza are not Hamas. Hamas is not the people of Gaza. The people of Gaza should not be paying for what the Hamas did. I'm going to make this very clear, okay? These are the people who are supporting Hamas. It turns out that part of the time the girls were held in tunnels underneath, but part of the time they were put in the apartments of regular Gaza civilians. And a family of 4, mom, dad, and kids, was keeping her chained to the bed inside their apartment. And the neighbors knew this. What I'm trying to say, the people of Gaza took part in this terrible, terrible hostage situation. Which brings me to something that I've been thinking about, talking about, and connecting about lately, and I need kind of to change a little bit. Everybody talks about a hostage agreement, a ceasefire agreement, a hostage, how do you say, return? No, this is not an agreement. This is us paying ransom for somebody that was kidnapped. And to understand this, I need you to understand the term. Okay? Because prisoners of war are swapped at the end of the war. The Soviet Union and the United States traded spies at the end of the war. This is not that. This is somebody that came into our home and took men, women, babies from their beds, from their homes, from their houses, and have held them for ransom. And we have no choice but to go and pay the ransom. And the price we're paying is in watching them being paraded like this, and understanding that we have no choice but we have to give in to them in order to do this, making political concessions to them because we want their lives back. Now, I don't know. Most of us have not gone through anything like this. I have never, God forbid. But you see it in the movies. When somebody takes somebody kidnap somebody for ransom, then it connects or contacts the family. The police is standing there, and he says, I want a suitcase with $7 million in return for your daughter. The father says, I have no choice, and he goes to the bank, and he takes the $7 million, he puts it in the suitcase, and he goes to the place where he's supposed to exchange ransom for his daughter. As I was watching this, I thought about something very deep. Yes, it's all over Israeli news. We're so happy that they're back. We're talking to their families. We're watching them come back. They land in the helicopters. It's all about that. But for them to come back, we had to go do something that I think is profoundly problematic. I was thinking about the father who puts that $7 million in a suitcase and goes to the drop-off point, I don't know, the trash can in the park or whatever, knowing that he's giving that money to somebody who's not only evil, but has done something very evil to him. Now, we do it because we have to. These are the lives of our loved ones. But we're making a deal with evil. We're making a deal with the demon. We're making a deal that is going to allow him to get stronger, to get richer, and to do it again. We don't have a choice. But think about that tear in your soul when you put that suitcase down knowing that you've made a deal with the devil in order to save the life of your daughter, of your son, of your mother, of an 80-year-old man who was released yesterday. It is a deep, deep spiritual, deep, deep moral, deep, deep emotional scratch that we're all dealing with. Now, again, we're happy. When they're released, the whole country is ecstatic. But we are making a deal with evil in order for this to happen. And I need people to understand, because for a lot of people all over the world, this is just a deal. This is just, this is politics. This is, you do this, they do that. No, this is much, much deeper. And quit calling it a hostage agreement. Quit calling it a hostage deal. It is Israel paying ransom for its loved ones. And we're paying in all kinds of different currencies. So that's just a little bit about the hostage itself. This is the third part of the first stage, or the first phase, if you want to call it. And everybody now is starting to talk about maybe the fact that phase 2 and phase 3 are not actually going to happen. Phase 2 is supposed to be when we start dealing with the rest of the hostages. Don't forget, there's still 68 hostages in Hamas hands that nobody's even talked about yet. We've actually given in or given back most of the evil people in our jails. What are we going to give back for the stage, 2 and stage 3, which is a problem. Another thing that nobody really is talking about is that phase 3 should be the end of the war, meaning Israel pulls out and promises not to attack Gaza again. That's basically the idea. The only problem is what's going to be there when we pull out. And Israel has made it very clear, and I'm going to tell you as an Israeli, we will not let Hamas stay in power there. So something else needs to step into power. The only thing is that nobody else is willing to step into power. There is the Palestinian Authority, which is another version of the Palestinian leadership, which is less fundamentalist but hates Israel just as much as the Hamas does, and they don't get along with each other. But last time the Palestinian Authority tried to take over from Hamas, they went into Gaza and Hamas kicked them out in 3 days. So they have no ability to rule, they have no ability to govern. So who is going to govern Gaza after Israel leaves? And we're already seeing, just by these ceremonies and other things that are happening, that the Hamas is still in power and the people still want him to stay in power. So there's some serious problems that are still connected to this, and we haven't kind of figured out what is the final stage. Another thing, though, if you want to understand what's going on, because, again, people talk about the politics, and they talk about Netanyahu, and they talk about our government, and there is a big balagan in that. But I'm going to tell you something else. Israel is in PTSD. We are afraid, not politically, not as part of the government, but the people in the street, my sister, my mother, me, my nephew who's there, we are afraid of leaving Gaza in power. We're afraid of another October 7th because they say that's what they're going to do. We're afraid that this is given a backwind, for all of our enemies all over the Middle East. I mean, there's people dancing in the streets all over the Middle East because of what Hamas has done to us. That might be the spark that the Arab world needs to turn into a full-fledged anti-Israel balagan. And don't forget, we're watching the anti-Semitism that is spreading as a result of this Hamas triumph all through the rest of the world. We're watching it among the young people in the United States, in the universities that have turned the Hamas into, the new trend, if you want to put it that way. And this is something that we're dealing with very much as watching this. And don't forget, we're Jews. A couple of days ago, we celebrated the International Holocaust Memorial Day. That's the day when the American forces actually pushed the Germans out and opened up the camps, actually Auschwitz-Birkenau in this case. And that's the day that the world uses to commemorate what happened in the Holocaust. We don't need to commemorate. We need to talk to our families. I mean, we know that people want to kill us. We know that this is normal. And when we're being blamed for being Nazis, we realize what's going on. We realize that this is something that we have known down through the generations. Now, it's weird. I never really thought I would say this, but people have a genetic or a historical memory. I mean, I'm part of a very, very ancient people. I'm part of a very ancient people who has a very rich history. And part of that rich history has people who have tried to kill us. And again, I mean, this is a tour guide joke that I've told many times, but we actually celebrate people who want to kill us on a regular basis. We know what it's like. I mean, think about what all the Jewish holidays are. And most of you have heard this joke, but I'm going to repeat it anyway because it bears repeating right here. What is a Jewish holiday? A Jewish holiday goes like this. They tried to kill us. They didn't kill us. Let's eat. Now, I know some of you are laughing right now, but I'm going to say it's only half of a joke because on Passover, we talk about the Egyptians that tried to kill us. On Hanukkah, we talk about the Greeks who tried to kill us. On Purim, we talk about the Persians who tried to kill us. We grow up knowing that people want to kill us and celebrating that people want to kill us and that they failed. And we're going to have another holiday that's going to celebrate the failure of what happened here on October 7th and everything that happened after that. But let's make this clear. We are afraid. And we also know that if Hamas actually ever releases all of its hostages, then there's no leverage. I mean, what they know that if they don't have hostages in their hands, we're going to be all out for them, which means that they probably will never release all of the hostages. Which means that probably stage 2 and stage 3, this agreement is probably going to break down at some point, and then we're going to have to decide what we're going to do. I'm sorry to put it like that. Not a lot of people are saying this out loud, but this is the situation in Gaza. Which brings me to the ray of light that actually has been shining through this darkness, and his name is Donald J. Trump. And I got to tell you, I mean, ever since that happened, we've been in a different place to a certain extent. Excuse me. And let's go like this. And again, I need to connect this because President Trump is on a roll. This is his last chance. He wants to make the massive change. Everybody's talking about this lately, especially here. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. So he wants to make America great again, and Israel is made up of what makes American great. We are a democracy. We're a rational Judeo-Christian group sitting in the middle of the Middle East with huge ties to the United States. What makes America great is good for Israel. And again, not sure that President Trump is doing everything for his love of Israel, but he is on the right thing. And I'm going to say this like I've said many times before. A strong America is the best thing for Israel in the world. So the first thing that he's done, among other things that he's done, he's called Netanyahu to Washington this coming Wednesday. So Netanyahu is going to be sitting in Washington, and he's going to be saying to Netanyahu, I need you to do this, this, and this. Now, don't forget, he has his plan. It's not always the same as what Israel wants, but Donald J. Trump is going to maneuver everybody, including Israel, into fulfilling his plan. Classic example, he's talking about moving Palestinians out of Gaza, either to Egypt or to Jordan or to both of them. I think part of the thing that they said, they talked about moving them to Indonesia or moving them to Albania. But the whole concept that he's talking about moving Palestinians out of Palestine, for lack of a better word, okay, is a complete deal changer. It's going to completely change everything. And when somebody asked him, I think the other day, wait a minute, but Jordan doesn't want them because they've almost overthrown the Jordanian king a couple of times, Trump said, they will. And that was the end of the conversation. He is putting together a much, much bigger deal. And if you want to check this out, check out the India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor. What a name. India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor. And basically, this is an idea that's been floating around for a while of connecting India to Saudi Arabia to Jordan, Jordan to Israel, and Israel to the rest of Europe, and allowing goods to flow directly from India, which is becoming the replacement for China in many, many ways, through the Middle East. It's going to be a huge economic corridor. The Saudis are all over it because it allows them to connect to India on one side and us on the other side. There's a lot of things going on. Donald Trump is going to use this as the carrot that's going to press all of the players into some kind of mega agreement. And I'm sure that's what he's going to be talking about with Benjamin Netanyahu this Wednesday in the United States. But he is also doing other things. He signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism. Basically, what he's saying is that he gave the authorities 60 days to check which pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian agitators in the universities are here on student visas. And if you're on a student visa in a Columbia University and you've been yelling pro-Hamas, which is a hostile terrorist organization according to United States law, that's enough of a reason to deport you. Again, we're seeing he's making these changes, which I think are fascinating. Which brings me to the last chapter of this. Watching these young women being set free from captivity, being returned to life, being saved. There's a reason that Israel insisted that the first of the hostages released this round would be women, children, old men, women especially. Why? Because we celebrate life. And the term that we're going to talk about in Hebrew for today, it's a biblical term, is chaim. Chaim is the Hebrew word for life. Lechaim, I don't know if you remember Fiddler on the Roof. To life, lechaim, means to life, basically. It's a name that we use. Chaim Herzog was our first president. Chaim means life. By the way, his grandson, Yitzhak Herzog, is now president. Chaim Saban, I don't know if you remember a guy named Chaim Saban. He was the guy who invented the Power Rangers. I don't know if you remember that. But what I'm trying to say is Chaim. That's what life means to us. Many Israelis actually wear the word chai on necklaces because it's a symbol of coming together. But a lot of people don't realize that there is a biblical connection to this. And go back to Genesis 3, the first stage, when this is coming together. It goes like this. Adam, okay, now he has a wife. He needs to name his wife. I don't know if you know, but we gave our wives their name. Adam named his wife Chaya, or in Hebrew, Chava, because she would be the mother of all things Chaim, living. The name Eve literally means life. She was the very first woman to become pregnant and to carry precious life in her womb. Later on, another woman carried life in her womb that gave all of us life. Her name was Mary. Jesus was brought to us through another daughter of Eve, or daughter of Chava. Another woman who helped us understand what life really is. I don't know if you remember the story of Martha, who encountered the power of Jesus. Okay, and she said to him, why did you wait so long? You know, my brother Lazarus is dead. And Jesus says to her, I am the resurrection and Chaim. Anybody who believes in me will have Chaim. Even though they die, whoever has Chaim by believing in me will never die. So Chaim is much more than just a word or a translation. Chaim is a concept that ties into what's going on today. We are all sons of Adam, by the way, on one hand, but we're all daughters of Chava. I just thought it would be a really interesting connection that these young women who have been given their Chaim back, they know what Chaim is now. And the 5 hostages, all of these people, it's all about their life. Jesus gave us our Chaim back. And Jesus, who came through a daughter of Eve, came down and gave up his Chaim so that we could have Chaim in God, that we would not die and we will not be lost. And I think this is amazing connection. And if there's anything I want to have for a prayer here is I want you to pray that these young girls and all the rest of the hostages and all the rest of Israel that are going through this salvation process will recognize the true giver of life and reconnect to Jesus, who is the Chaim of all of us. This has been brought to you by Gihon Springs. Gihon Springs is a ministry that actually does bring Chaim to Israel. We actually part of a pro-life ministry in Israel. We support Israeli soldiers. We support Israeli widows. If you want to support those things, if you want to support me and Christy, go to gihonsprings.com. You can find different ways to support us there. We're planning on a trip to Israel in a couple of weeks, so we'll be talking about that. And if you have anything to say about that, let us know. This is DaviD TaL. This is a Balagan Connection. Hope to see you soon.